think about trust, often we can frame it as something we have for a person or don't have, a binary assessment. Imagine for a second a project that you've had where you're working with somebody and your expectations were not met. Often you can go to, well, that person just wasn't able to finish this task. They didn't have the capabilities. Or in some cases you could say they just don't have the right personality or temperament. Who they are is somebody that cannot fulfill on this task. However, if somebody else is assessing the expectations that you might have fulfilled, your defense might be, well, I wasn't told that this was an expectation. I didn't know. This highlights a disparity in the components of trust. Trust is typically made up of three elements: character, capability, and communication. When we think about the trust we have for others, we typically think capability and character at play, not necessarily our communication. But when others are assessing trust of us, we think it's all about communication, not about my capability or character. So when we lay it open, what percent do we think that character or capability play in assessing trust? Character really represents only 5% of the mistrust that we have. Capability, 15%. 80% is the communication that we have with one another. And in that, it means that trust isn't necessarily a binary assessment, it's a gradient. How can I have trust that's sufficient enough to accomplish a particular task? If you begin to think of trust as a gradient, or trust being on a continuum, then there's a little bit of room to say, well, then how can I increase the level of trust that I have? And in so doing, what could I communicate? How could I be understood to a greater extent so that that trust is fulfilled? How can I continue to separate the facts of the situation and the stories I might be holding on to that are getting in the way of enhancing that trust with that other person?